Welcome everybody back to the DomCast, episode 22, actually? Yeah. I didn't restart again. I only restarted when I left UCAS because they wouldn't pay me. I didn't need to disclose that. That is super unprofessional. We are here on November 21st. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. A lot of y'all are still hating on the fact that there's Christmas decorations on every corner, but I don't know what to tell you, bro. A lot of us don't wait the entire year just to celebrate Christmas for 20 something days, which in adult time works out to about 30 minutes. Off topic. If I sound a little bit different today, it's because I'm recording in Streamlabs OBS, because I may or may not want to use sound effects. It's more than likely I'll just completely forget they're here and I won't use them at all, but I do have that option, and it also does a lot of work for my voice without me having to manually do it. So if I sound different, that is why. Last week, I did my return podcast for the NBA 75th season, so the topics were just kind of all over the place. That's why you didn't get any kind of time markers. I'm going to tell you right now, on the video itself, the only time markers you're probably going to get is the things that make me unhappy in the NBA and the things that make me happy. Because that's kind of how I have the topics written down right now. There's a chance there's something I can do in OBS that will actually mark the topics, and maybe in the comment section and description of the video you'll see like time markers. There's a chance that'll happen because I'm talking about a lot of things. Even after last week, still I had a lot of teams last week I didn't talk about, and then of course things happened this week that I want to speak of, and there's just so many, and I'm going to be hopping topic to topic that I wouldn't be able to fit all of these on the little video graphic if I wanted to. So that's just kind of how it happens. Either way, I try to choose things that I'm interested in so that they'll be interesting to listen to. So hopefully you don't necessarily feel the need to have to skip around unless you just really don't want to hear about the Wizards, because the Wizards are they're interesting, but I get the feeling that they're one of those teams that are good and they're at the top of the standings, but absolutely nobody cares about it because they don't see the playoff longevity, they don't see the playoff opportunities, and so therefore maybe you don't want to listen to anything about them on a podcast, is what I'm trying to say. Well, that's not where I'm starting anyways. I am starting with the things that make me unhappy. It makes me happy though that this podcast is successfully back on Spotify. It is on the Apple Podcast as well. The links to that are in the comment section and description in case you just want to close your phone because you ain't paying for YouTube Premium, which I did, by the way. I took the trial and then I just let them start nabbing my card because I got really used to not having ads. So once you get it, there's just no going back. No sponsor yet. All right, unhappy. The Cavaliers, they fell apart. The Cleveland Cavaliers, if you weren't paying attention, they were off to a good and believable start. They were off to a start that made me think by the end of the year, they could be a strong bottom half East team. So by the time everyone is healthy and things work themselves out, I did not see them being some contender, some dark horse, nothing like that for the Cavaliers yet. I think they were years away from that. I thought with the roster that they had, the basketball that they were playing, and the potential for growth, you could see Cleveland do something like, like a fifth, sixth seed. The way the East is so crowded, it could have even been play-in. But I believed in them enough for that, and that says a lot. Because in a normal year, you're like, what's happening at Cleveland? What's there to do in Cleveland? Who says I want to pay attention to Cleveland without LeBron James? Anyways, so if you hadn't heard, first of all, Lauri Markkanen disappeared, and when you say that name, it might have some leftover sting. People are like, who cares? I remember I mentioned him with Chicago one time, and I got killed for that. But he was actually part of a successful tall ball Cavaliers lineup that was working for 8 games. He was doing his job as a 7-foot small forward, pretty much. He's averaging 13 points a game. He was he wasn't shooting the three well at all in those first. Look, he was doing his job as a starting 7-foot small forward. All right, take that for what you will on a Cavaliers team. You don't get starting 7-foot small forwards really in the NBA these days. That's not where the game is. He disappeared. We haven't seen him in quite some time. He might even be back now because I've sort of lost interest in Cleveland. No, he hasn't been back. He's not back. He's still day to day. Health and safety is still hidden people left and right. That man is somewhere on an island. All right, he's not here. Colin Sexton went out with a torn meniscus. And then we were like, okay, like, That's 2 now. And meniscus, normally the thing you hear with that, it depends on the surgery you get. I remember when that happened to D Rose. It's happened to so many of the stars. Depends on the surgery you get, whether you can come back that season or not. Well, guess what? Sexton ain't coming back. That one was announced a couple of days ago. So there goes some of your guard play for the whole season. There was an argument from some Cavs fans when he went out. A lot of them were saying, oh, we needed to try something different, maybe with him off the bench anyways, or what have you. And I even thought they could survive a little bit of time without him, because you had Rubio and Garland who are both playing well. So I said, all right, that's fine for maybe 2 months, 3 months. They can hang without him and give Darius Garland more shots. They can live without him, but now he's out for the season. And then, of course, Evan Mobley, which I believe he was out since the last podcast that I did. Elbow sprain, 2 to 4 weeks. So it could be 2 weeks, could be a month. Either way. Oh, sorry. Also, Jared Allen is out too. And you know the crazy thing is, Jared Allen just disappeared. This is what's happening in Cleveland. People are getting hit left and right. And I didn't even know where he was out. He was out with an illness. I don't know if it's COVID related. So Jared Allen just disappeared. Having clearly his best season so far, earning all 100 and something million dollars that people were raising their eyebrows at this summer on both ends of the floor. And he was super important for Evan Mobley as well, because I don't think Evan Mobley wants to necessarily start at 5 yet, and they had that little 2-man game going between them that you don't see between 2 7-footers in the year 2021. And so then he just disappeared. So you'll get Allen back, you'll get Mobley back, I guess you'll get Markkanen back. My problem is, sorry, wrong page I'm on. I'm like shifting between pages as I'm talking. Problem is, I think there's going to be a slide now. Cleveland is actually, yeah, see, they're already 9-8. They are 8th in the Eastern Conference. So the slide has already begun. Not really necessarily close to getting Mobley back yet, or you don't really know. It could be a week or it could be 3. No clue where Allen is. Not getting Sexton back. By the time this is all said and done, you could slide to a point where your momentum is totally crushed, and you're all of a sudden fighting with multiple teams back here for a play-in spot. Just knowing Cleveland's luck. I don't want to make any predictions on that. Again, way too early. But it's just shit luck. It just makes me unhappy, because they were actually a fun team to watch. And without LeBron James, Cleveland has seldom ever been a fun team to watch. If you look at the back of the Eastern Conference, the Sixers, once they get healthy, they'll be back in it. The Bucks are definitely going to be back in it once they're healthy. And probably so are the Hawks, who should now be, I think they're 9-9. Here on Basketball Reference, it says they're 8-9. I'm not sure if that's updated. I need to go to the NBA's website. But either way, there's 3 teams out here in the Eastern Conference that are not in the playoff bracket right now that are going to be in the playoff bracket, which means 3 Eastern teams are going to probably be pushed out. When you look at that, there's a lot of teams in the East that are good teams and teams that you could see in the playoffs, or decent teams that you could see in the playoffs, like the New York Knicks, like the Charlotte Hornets. Hell, I mean, Celtics have been average, but they've been playing decent as of late. The Bulls aren't going anywhere. Nets not going anywhere. Heat not going anywhere. The Wizards are second. It's gonna be some teams that you're familiar with this year that just don't make it. That's where the East is. All the way, if you go all the way down to the 12th seed, you have the Toronto Raptors, who are a decent team. There's only 3 teams on this conference bracket that I say nobody really cares about them. There's nothing interesting happening this season. I don't really see the direction. That's the Pistons, the Magic, and the Pacers. There's 3, and you could even argue, like, the Pacers have the starting 5 to be able to do something, but by do something I mean play in or playoffs, barely. But yeah, the only like really bad teams here are the Magic and Pistons. So I just say that to say, if you're a team like the Cavs, who's young and trying to build confidence, play style, all that, you can't really afford the slide that they're about to have. That is wild, unfortunate. But that's just the life of a Cavalier fan. We can move on. I don't really need to. I talked a little bit about them actually playing last week, so don't need to rehash that whole thing. Unhappy. The Pelicans. Very unhappy with the Pelicans. I've realized I neglected to talk about them last week. But first I wanted to start off with a note that I believe a lot of people are just kind of overlooking. Jonas Valanciunas is having a season for himself. Traded to the Pelicans and extended by them, so played last season with the Memphis Grizzlies. He's now extended for like 3 years. And his numbers look somewhat similar. Last year, he's putting up 17 and 12. This year, he's putting up 19 and 13. He's taking a couple more shots because he's playing on a team that is just injured to hell. So they're even relying on him a bit more. But it's impressive because even though he's not shooting 59% like he was last year, he's at 51%. He's shooting by far the highest mark from three in his career at 56%, which is leading the league in threes. If you're curious, he's taking 2 a game right now. So it's not like he's just out there as a full-time stretch 5 or anything. But yes, he is leading the league in 3-point percentage. And when you look, if you're taking any look at the Pelicans, when guys are out, or even just in the games they win, he'll have some monster stat lines. Just because I want to actually have a log for you, if you look yesterday in a game that they won. Yes, the New Orleans Pelicans won a basketball game on the 19th against the Clippers, which Jonas had 26 and 13. You look at some of these other stat lines from October, he had 25 and 15, got 22 and 11 right here. You got 27 and 14, 24 and 13. Gosh, he's got a 22 and 23 game. These are points and rebounds, by the way. 22 points, 23 rebounds in the 4th game of the season. So Jonas is eating. And he kind of has to on this 3 and what are the Pelicans right now? Yes, 3 and 15 Pelicans team. So wild, unfortunate, because they maybe could have actually been decent this year if Zion's career wasn't going down the exact path that many thought it would, and if they just weren't dealing with things in general. Because also Brandon Ingram missed a good amount of time with this hip injury. But when Ingram is on the court right now, he is also probably, if it's still accurate for what I was seeing, still probably having his best season. And taking a leap that nobody will care about because it's happening in New Orleans. He's averaging 22 a game right now. Yeah, he's averaging 22 a game. Okay, so it's no longer, by the stats, it's no longer his best season, but he did have a hot start. If you actually watch some of what's happening on the court, development looks nice, but again, he is on the Pelicans, the Zion, this Pelicans, so a lot falls on his shoulders. He's having to take the most shots of his career at 20 with not a lot of, how do I say? I don't know if not a lot of space is the right word, but not a lot of other offensive threats to take the attention off him. So definitely the beginning of the season was liking what I saw, but he's in a tough spot right now. It's in a very tough spot. It's Louisiana. Let me stop. Yeah, this is, so on one note with the Jonas thing, I kind of tweeted as a joke yesterday which one of y'all teams is going to trade for him, because a contender could there's definitely contenders out there that could use a stretch 5 that can just have monster games to help this Pelicans team win 3 of them. But it likely won't happen this year. They just extended him, so not this year anyways. But with the Pels, it's really Zion, I guess we would be talking about. Obviously not happy because to my eye, I believe he should be missing the whole season. That's where I am. Every time I mention the Pelicans, again, people are I saw one, I think it was Maples. You follow Jason Maples on Twitter, and he's a Laker fan, I believe, but he talks about a lot of other teams, and somebody brought up the Lakers, and when he tweeted about another team, and they were, oh yeah, he was tweeting about some squad, and somebody was like, oh, how's the Lakers? And he goes, yeah, they're butt right now, but luckily I'm one of these basketball fans that don't take discourse like Dungeons and Dragons, so I can enjoy other teams. You bitch. He didn't say that. That's my part. I added that part because it's so stupid when you talk about a squad and somebody's like, oh, how's your team? They're fucking average, just like I thought they were gonna be. Doesn't mean I can't talk about another team or enjoy another team. Anyways, I bring it up here because Pelicans fans been in my mention since day one, since I was like, I don't understand the Lonzo Ball trade. I still don't understand it, not because he could be making a big difference in your lives right now, just because of the lack of what they got for him. That's a different conversation though. Whatever. I'm not gonna pour salt in the wound there. The injuries have been very unfortunate. You wouldn't have been 3-15. But I also said just toss Zion for the season. And then again, I don't understand on Twitter why you have to. This is why I don't really answer people on Twitter, because there's not enough characters to say every little thing. So I assume a certain level of like, I guess, intelligence. Oh, why are you giving up on Zion already? It's the beginning of the season. Because the Pelican season is over, my guy. I don't know what you thought was going to happen in New Orleans without Zion in the first, even if it was the first month. I don't know what you thought was going to happen. But the season is over. You're in the Western Conference. You've got no momentum right now. Zion is 300 plus pounds, and he's had a meniscus injury in his career already. I believe he's had another injury maybe that I'm missing, but I could be lying to you also. And the most current one he's dealing with is a ghost foot injury, and I call it a ghost foot injury because nobody knew it happened until the season was about to start. And they were like, oh yeah, by the way, our star player who's already been injury and weight prone is now got a foot injury, guys. So we'll see. Yeah, we should see him starting night. That was cap. That was big cap. And so now at this point that you're 3-15, you won't be making the playoffs this year. And so I say, why even bring him back? Because he doesn't have his weight under control. And I don't think that's going to happen in a timely manner. And so if you put him on the court with anything close to that weight, recovering from a foot injury, I don't need to finish this, right? You see where I'm going with this. Zion should probably miss this entire year. Very unfortunate for the Pelicans. Because of it, JV is pretty much being wasted. I think he could be on a good team somewhere right now. And Zion's career is, man, like when he came in, I always said it just seemed too good to be true. You had a football player, what was essentially a football player, just bulldozing people. I remember one of the very first plays of his career was in preseason, just taking it straight into the chest of Rudy Gobert, who was probably a defensive player of the year at that time. He was just a tank. People will forget really quickly, even last season, the stuff that he was doing with the lack of space that he had was really reminiscent. Not even reminiscent. It was very, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, bro. It was indicating a generational talent is what I'm trying to say. And right now, it's when people came in, they were like, oh, it's gonna be able to stay healthy. And here we are. So that's all I really have to say about the Pelicans. Makes me very unhappy what's going on there. But Ingram is interesting though. I'll say that Ingram is interesting, even if his percentages aren't going to show it this year. Definitely interesting, and he had an interesting start. The Knicks and Julius Randle make me unhappy. The Knicks and Julius Randle. Interesting things happening in New York. They're currently 5th. They're 9-7, so winning record, cool. They are also 17th in opponents' points per game, 17th in defensive rating. If you just take this back to last season, they were 1st in opponents' points per game, 3rd in defensive rating. So there's been a drop there. There has also been a drop in Sir Julius. And people were looking for this because especially after the playoffs last year, they're going, oh, was he actually a star? This is his first all-star team. It came 6 years. That was in his 6th or 7th season. And all of a sudden he's an all-star in the Tibbs. He was averaging 24 and 10. Then the playoffs happened and they keyed in on him, and it was raps and people. All the question marks came out. Question mark still there, and 16 games through, he is down 5 points a game at the moment. He's only averaging 19. His percentages are down. He's shooting 40%. He's shooting 35% from 3 when last year he was shooting 41, attempting nearly the same. Only one more 3 a game. But I also have a tweet for you. I was supposed to have a tweet section on the podcast, but I didn't find enough stupid. Oh God, don't tell me Twitter is broken. Are you kidding me, bro? Okay, either Twitter is broken or I just got packed up live on stream, but I haven't tweeted anything like that would get me banned. Okay, I'm just gonna look at my phone. Twitter for computer is tripping. I'm always fearful of that. Whenever I get on Twitter and it's not working, I'm always fearful because I'm always thinking one of my old videos from way back then got caught up in copyright, and now I just lost all 80k followers. Follow me on Twitter, by the way. Shout out to Just, I don't know how to read his name, bro. At Just as Barahini, bro. He's cool though. He tweets cool NBA stuff. Anyways, biggest difference in Randle's game this season: pull-up shooting. Last season, 41% from 2, 40% from 3. This season, 30% from 2, 34% from 3. That's in pull-up shooting. So that's currently happening right now. You start to wonder, people are like, has Randle been figured out? That's just one of their issues. I think another thing that may be disappointing, at least to start, again, I do want to always in these early podcasts remind everyone that it is early. Because as a team, the Knicks, I thought they had a good offseason, and I thought they did things that they needed to do to make sure that if we get to the playoffs, hey, they don't just kill Julius Randle and that ruin everything. That ruined that ruined our entire playoff run. We only win one game and what was supposed to be a 7-game series. So you go out and you get an Evan Fournier to help with scoring. You go out and get Kemba Walker to help with scoring. Neither which are working out particularly well also at the moment. Because if you look at Kemba Walker, he's only averaging 12 points a game, which you don't like. I wonder what you expect from Kemba, knowing that his knees have kind of gone downhill. You know, he's not Kemba from the Hornets. He's not even Kemba from when the Celtics first got him. But yeah, see, just 12 points a game on 43% from the field is not ideal. Still 42% from 3, so nothing terrible there, but I guess that's not ideal from what you're hoping for. Derrick Rose is technically, from what you expect from Derrick Rose anyways, off the bench. So sometimes he's probably the better option. He's definitely having a better season. I don't want to. I just stopped myself from going into a whole spiel about D Rose. Don't need much more D Rose praise right now. I've done it enough. But Fournier also, if you thought you were getting Orlando Magic Fournier that was averaging close to 20 points a game, well, you're not. You're getting Evan Fournier averaging 12 and 41%, and then 36% from 3, which is a good bit down from what he's done in the last couple of years. So you combine that with the defense also not looking great, to the tune that they almost lost to the Houston Rockets last night. And yeah, you could probably be disappointed, especially because you got Mitchell Robinson back. You were just, even if they fix this, you were hoping for a better start. I watched them play Houston specifically because trying to pay attention to every NBA team, first of all, is hell. I'm just going to be real with you. I'm not one of the people that watches 10 games at once because I don't know what you're supposed to be able to tell from a game when you're watching 10 of them at once. So that's just not my method. Like during the season, I'm just kind of going around and focusing in on certain teams. So I've kind of gotten around to the Knicks. I was like, oh, yeah, their defense is definitely sus compared to last year. It's a lot worse. Let's just go ahead and put it what it is. And so I watched them play the Rockets. I'm like, yeah, the Rockets almost beat them. They were cutting up yesterday. They escaped by some Alec Burks threes, I think, which just from what I've seen also, he seems to be giving them a nice boost off the bench when he comes in. Does not? Yep. Okay, cool. It confirms what I see. Yeah, 44% from 3. So shout out to Alec Burks doing his part. Because when I do see the Knicks, I see him hitting threes. So I just had to see that. But yeah, I heard something. Shout out to the Dunker Spot and Nikias, good people over there with the best basketball podcast in existence. Anyways, they were saying maybe for the start that the Knicks maybe came into this year thinking they could rely a little bit more on their offense. That could be part of why they're worse on defense. But either way, you're disappointed with this start, but you're also kind of where I expected you to be anyways. If you look at the top teams in the conference right now, the only one that I'm 100% sure is going to fall out, which Wizards fans, y'all can go ahead and throw this in my face. I'm going to talk about y'all, by the way, but you can throw this in my face if you don't. But at 11-5, you're second in the conference right now. You're surrounded by the Bulls, Heat, and Nets. I would actually bet you money y'all aren't gonna have a top 4 finish. Well, okay. I would bet you money if the Bucks get healthy. If health is involved, y'all will not have a top 4 finish. But either way, then that would give you Nets, Bucks, Bulls, and Heat. And so that seems like a very solid 4. And so the Knicks ending up like 5 or 6 is also kind of what I expect for this team regardless. I guess I'm just looking for, or I'm hoping for, an uptick in Randle's play. But also if that doesn't happen, that is just disappointing, because with what they had last year and then the roster that you built around him, I was starting to say, okay, if Randle's legit, maybe you're like a Damian Lillard away from actually doing something serious. Don't know how you would get Dame and still keep a Mitchell Robinson, which I think is kind of important, because his ceiling is sky high as a center on this type of team. How many blocks is he giving you right now? Almost 2 a game. That tracks. So yeah, average start for New York. They had one of the best. Well, the NBA had one of the best opening days I've ever seen, and the Celtics and Knicks were a part of that. Had a great game. Then they got an impressive win against Chicago, which they almost blew. I turned that game off on the watch party, and they almost lost it. People were like, if it can happen to the Knicks, it will. Or if it can go wrong for the Knicks, it will. That's what they were saying. They were like, never cut off a New York game, because you don't know what's gonna happen. But yeah, just a mid start for them right now. And Julius Randle, I guess some people expected this after the playoffs. So I don't know. Maybe I should have put them in the neutral section. I don't know if that necessarily makes me. I think it's more of the Randle part that makes me unhappy. And their and their defense. So yeah, they belong in the unhappy section. We'll see though. Again, it's only that's only 16 games. Maybe they will turn out being a top 4 team. But also, I'm not sure if Randle is getting back to all-star status. So something to keep an eye on. I am talking about the Sacramento Kings on a podcast. That is fascinating.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
I'm unhappy with the Kings because I'm starting. Do y'all remember? Are you an avid listener of this podcast? If so, I appreciate it. Leave a like, leave a review. But last week I talked about the Orlando Magic and how they capped out at a certain point with that group that was centered around Vooch, I guess. They capped out, and there was just really nothing else to do. Even though you had good players who clearly had good potential, so Oladipo, Tobias Harris, Vucevic, who else was there at that time? I don't forgot. Either way, it was the rebuild after Dwight Howard, and it seemed like that group could go somewhere and do something. Not really do it. When I say do something, I mean just be better than they were. That team was never contending. But and then Aaron Gordon too. Yeah, that was me and my Orlando friends down here still talk about what we thought Aaron Gordon would be. So they just had this group, this talent, this conglomerate of players that looked like they should do something one day. Then the development just kind of stopped, and they were like, okay, we're rebuilding from a rebuild. And so they made the playoffs like once or twice, and then they went ahead and took it all down. Anyways, I bring up the Magic because I'm starting to feel this way about Sacramento. First of all, Sacramento has not made the playoffs since I was a 6th grader. I'm 26 now. So it's what, 15 years? They've not made the playoffs since some of y'all probably weren't born last time the Kings were in the playoffs. They've went through multiple rebuilds. They went and got DeMarcus Cousins, so they finally had a star player, and then that didn't work out. They fired a coach that he liked. That I'm not rehashing the whole Kings history. But I'm starting to look at this group and say, man, they're starting to feel capped. Where you got De'Aaron Fox, who's still young, but has definitely regressed this season. Year in year, what is this right now of Buddy Hield? 1, 2, actually, so half of that season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're in year 6 of Buddy Hield, who you clearly want to move on from. He's not even starting anymore. I thought it was pretty obvious to start Tyrese Halliburton, not because I know him, just because I watched Sacramento basketball last year and I was like, hey, they're better with him in the lineup. The ball moves better. He does a lot of good things for that squad, and he doesn't shoot everything he looks at. So clearly they agree. And Buddy Hield is actually having a pretty decent, I don't know if that's the word you want to use, off the bench, 16.5 points off the bench. Only shooting 40%, but he's also shooting 40% from 3. His 3-point percentage is basically his field goal percentage. He's taking 10 threes a game, so that's his function. Buddy Hield, that was the thing about Hield. When Laker fans were talking about the trades this year, I kept saying, I don't know if y'all actually watch Hield on the Kings. He will shoot anything. He will shoot anything. On the Lakers, I thought maybe he could temper it because he'll be playing with LeBron, and he don't play that shit. So, but also he will shoot anything. So I know they were in love with that idea, but I think the real miss was not trading for Kyle Lowry. Anyways, we'll get to some Lakers talk later. I'm trying to say is now you've got Fox, who's not your best player on the Kings this season. Harrison Barnes is actually the best player, which is unfortunate because he's 29 years old. And I'm just looking on the timeline of where this Kings team is at right now. Harrison Barnes is he's not the best player on a team that's gonna go anywhere. And he's also I think he's on a different timeline than your young guys here, like De'Aaron Fox, like Halliburton. Hell, even Davion Mitchell, who is really the defensive specialist there. But yeah, you've got this five. Rashawn Holmes and Tyrese Halliburton have kind of mastered this little two-man game. Already talked about Hield, who will be on the move. You've added Mitchell. But like, where do they go from here? They're not good this season. They're 6-11. They're losing kind of like the same games I feel like they've lost before. Technically, just because of the way everything is, you could be a play-in team still. That gave a lot of people chances. But how much better is this group going to get together is I guess where I'm going. You got Marvin Bagley, who I saw actually in a game the other day at an important time. Well, at a not in garbage time is what I'm trying to say. He's only played 4 games this season. He's clearly not happy there. He's been wanted out. I don't know what you're going to get for him value-wise. And then I'll tell you, I've never liked Tyrese Halliburton on the Kings because I really when we were last year looking at the squads he might get drafted to, and I learned a little bit about his game. Like, oh, he's got to be a point guard somewhere. And so the whole time he's on the Kings and he's playing with De'Aaron Fox, he's going to be a 2. Fox is, again, by name, supposed to be the best player on the team. He's not the best player this season. But at the end, there was a stretch last year before Halliburton got hurt, and he was the point guard for the Kings, and his numbers shot up. Obviously, he had more duties, but it looked good as well. And that had me thinking, man, what if he had gotten drafted to a team where he could just literally be the starting point guard? So I always wonder how long the Fox and Halliburton thing is gonna go, because Reese is clearly better as a 1 than he is as a 2. He manages as a 2 because he's a smart player and he does a lot of things. He plays passing lanes well, and he's just a cog that you could probably put in any offense because he makes good passes, he makes good reads. But all of that could be maximized as 1, and I think that's where it will be maximized. I don't think it's ever going to be maxed as a 2. So anyways, I think I've talked about Sacramento longer than I really care to here. My basic point is just like Fox, Halliburton, which is Halliburton's first year starting anyways, but again, I don't think he's going to make enough difference as a 2 to take this Kings team anywhere. Fox, Halliburton, Barnes, Holmes. You know what? Sheesh, what are y'all even... Time out real quick. Before I end this Kings thing here, what are y'all even doing for like a starting? Yeah, Barnes, Fox, Holmes, Halliburton, and Harkless. Okay. And then I'm starting to see some Mezzi Metu propaganda as well, and he held off the bench. Developing Mitchell. I guess all I'm trying to say is like I'm starting to see I don't know how many years this team is off from like another rebuild, because this is the squad these are the pieces that you hope is gonna take this team somewhere, and it's just from year to year continues to look similar to Sacramento basketball. And so I think they're gonna get themselves into a situation where they're rebuilding from rebuild. That's all I'm saying about the Kings. They are 12th right now. They're only above the Spurs, the Pelicans, and the Rockets. I feel like they could be better than that. The Tyrese Halliburton starting point guard for some team propaganda will start one day. It's not going to start right now because he's not even extended by the Kings yet for multiple years, which he will be. Obviously, they're not going to let him go anytime soon. But yeah, okay. I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, I think that was actually, surprisingly, that's my last unhappy, because I'm neutral on the next one. Not neutral out of bias. I'm neutral because I'm kind of like when it comes to the Boston Celtics. I'm just like I'm not booing them, I'm not ecstatic, just like meh. We're missing Jaylen Brown. He also disappeared. He had one of those Lauri Markkanen type disappearances. Not from an illness though, from a hamstring. So he's just been out after blazing to start the season. And so that leaves Tatum. And Tatum has responded well because, let's go ahead and pull up. I do need some of his game logs. Thing that I want to say about Jason Tatum is, started the season like butt. There's just no other way to put it. He started the season like butt. And Jaylen Brown started the season well, and so people were like, oh, Tatum is bad this season, Brown is better, yada yada. The whole thing I was telling y'all this, because it's starting to even out a little bit. First of all, his field goal percentage is definitely trash. Instead of his normal 45, he's only shooting 40. Effective field goal percentage can't even save him. It's at 47%. And he's at 34% from 3 as opposed to 38, but he's playing good as of late, and it's without Jaylen Brown. And the Celtics are moving the ball a little bit better. And its points a game are back up to 25, which from 26 last season. So it's not a major fall off there. So that's good. I guess people were frustrated. And I talked a little bit about Boston on the podcast last week, but I didn't go into like any major detail other than I think they were just in the unhappy section. But we've had a decent week. We beat the Lakers, so that's always a great mood setter. I think my frustration watching the Celtics was just seeing Tatum take tough and contested shots, which is an interesting rabbit hole to go down, because the thing you say is when Tatum makes those shots, you're happy and they're great shots, and all of a sudden you're saying, damn, that fadeaway looked like Kobe. And Kobe was his favorite player, and then they done photoshopped him into a Laker jersey, which was a bit too far, but it was a Kobe jersey. We'll let it slide. Specifically in that first game against the Knicks, where he clearly took that I would rather go 0 for 100 than like 0 for 10 quote to heart, wherever that came from. I think there's been some confusion on the source, but we were like, damn. And then he ended up taking the last shot for one of those. I think it was that game, right? And Jaylen Brown was on fire, and that just was like the wrong way to set the season up. But in the last couple of games, it's turned out well. So they blew the Lakers out. Tatum played great. They beat OKC last night, who again, it's OKC, but hey, you got Lou Dort on you for some of those possessions. But overall, I think at least some of Marcus Smart's criticism has went to heart, even though it was of Tatum and Brown. It's just Tatum playing right now, and I've seen a lot more instances of them swinging the ball and getting looks rather than Tatum just kind of pump fake, jab step, pump fake, back you down into a half spin brick or that being the regular shot attempt. So I am happy with that, and I'm happy. Why do I hear things in my ear? Streamlabs is tripping. Ignore me. I am happy. I'm definitely happy with Dennis Schroeder, because Schroeder has been so important for this team. He is actually the difference, I would say, between us being 7th seed at 9 and 8 and us being like 13 at 7 and 11 with the Pacers. He has been the guy. First of all, we're not paying. One of the reasons to be happy with him is we're not paying him much. Obviously, we already know about the bag situation, but since he's a Celtic right now, I'm not going at him for that. He's averaging 18 points a game this year. He is shooting 46% from the field, which is, oh my God, is that his? Okay, that's definitely not his. Oh, I'm wrong page. Whatever. 46% from the field this year, 33% from 3. Started 11 out of the 17 games, which was one of the interesting things happening when we started the season, because people were like, hey, what are we gonna do with this lineup, the way that it's built? How do we manage Marcus Smart and Schroeder? Schroeder is a starting point guard. I'd been saying that before. He's been one of the best players on the team. He's the starting point guard. Marcus Smart is not a starting point guard. Period. It's not more complicated than that on this specific roster. But he's flat out, I don't want to say won games for the Celtics, but been the best player in some of the wins. And he's the guy putting pressure on defenses, getting to the rim. He's a guy that when one of the players is off, it's like, all right, I'll score 28 tonight. I'll score 25 tonight. And so for the price we're getting him at, I couldn't be happier. And I'd said that during, people were always asking live during Twitch, what do you think about the Schroeder signing? I was like, I think we got a guy who's easily worth more than this. And some unfortunate situations led to it, and he probably won't be here next year, but whatever. I'm happy with it for now. Because without him, boy, and Jaylen Brown only having played 8 games, oh my gosh, we'd be. Anyways, So Schroeder and Tatum as of late are positives. If you look at Tatum's last, yeah, that's where I was going, by the way. Tatum's game logs. I kind of talked myself out of it. Tatum's game logs, his last 3 games, you've got 33 points, 33 and 8. So I'm talking rebounds, my bad. 33, 5 assists and 8 rebounds, 37 points and 11 rebounds, 34 and 9 rebounds with 5 assists. So those are his last 3 games against ATL, which was a loss, but then LA and OKC. So trending in the right direction as of late. The field goal percentage also in those, where it's 54, 50, and 50. Just keep the trend upward. Keep the ball moving. ISO when appropriate. But other than that, excuse me, I might have burped in this mic a couple of times. Your boy got heartburn and everything from last night. Yeah, keep it moving, because we have to keep it moving without Jaylen Brown. But one more positive would be Grant Williams, and I have to bring that up because my own community was, I just put we were on the verge of like flaming Grant Williams to start this season, even though he had a good game against the Knicks, because that's what we were asking. He was starting at 4, and then Julius Randle was cooking everybody, including Grant Williams, and I was just like, yo, if this guy isn't gonna hit 3-pointers, I don't understand his use as a starting 4, and we have to get a new one. By the way, he started 6 games this year, but when we use him at 4, it's a positive, because as opposed to last year where he shot 37% from 3 on 2 attempts, on 3.5 attempts, he's now shooting 43%. That tracks with the eye test. He's hitting his shots. He's hitting his shots, which as a 6'6" power forward, you have to be hitting those, especially on this team, where if we can't use him at 4, then we're having Al Horford and Robert Williams together, which is not at all what we'll be doing in the future, and not at all what's going to lead to like long-term success in this league. So Grant Williams has definitely been a positive, but the Celtics, I'm neutral on them just because of the streak as of late, so I don't have them in an unhappy section. I'm neutral with them right now. I honestly think with the way the team is built at the moment, this 7th seed, anywhere from 7 to 5 is probably as good as it gets for us. And by the way, Basketball Reference is updated. I didn't think it was earlier, but with the game logs, the records have to be updated. Yeah, this is about as good as it'll probably get this season. If they were top 4, I'd throw a party, given the teams that are going to be top 4. But yeah, neutral on the Celtics right now. Neutral on Tatum. Neutral on the Celtics. All right. That brings us to the happy section. I'm gonna have to take a bathroom break. There's no way getting around that. All right, I'm back for the second half. I completely neglected to mention at the beginning of the podcast, by the way, this is accurate as of the morning, Sunday morning. I didn't want to, on my second podcast, end up doing it on a Monday, because I told y'all I'd be here Sundays, and then if I don't post it this Sunday, people are like, oh damn, he done quit again. I ain't quit, by the way. Life just changed. That's what we're going with. But yeah, there's so many games happening today. Like, I don't want to record at night. I don't want to record. I'm gonna be tired. I'm not gonna want to discuss as much. So this is all accurate as the games before Sunday. I'm just terrible at intros. That's why I forgot to mention it. If you watch anything, the G League show that I'm on, the NBA show, that I forget shit in the intro all the time. That's always the hardest part, because my mind just moves too fast. Anyways, we're on the stuff that makes me happy. We are on the things that make us happy in the 75th season of the NBA. And guess what? Taylor Horton Tucker returned for the Lakers. And I should probably combine this into 2 sections, because LeBron James also returned. But Tucker returned first. And he's played 4 games so far with an average of 18 points, 43% from the field, 38% from 3 on 5 attempts. Took 2 a game last year. I think the way the lineup is this season, he's definitely gonna have to show that more. You play with Westbrook as your point guard, you're gonna have to be able to catch and shoot. But he had a horrible game last game. LeBron returned. They went with a lineup of Russ, Bradley, Tucker, Braun at the 4, 80 at the 5. That was their starting lineup. And so Tucker, obviously, without LeBron, had way more responsibilities, and he handled it well. He had what I believe would be his best game against the Milwaukee Bucks. That's a game they lost because Giannis just absolutely destroyed Anthony Davis, and then everybody else too. But against the Bucks, your boy put up 25 points, 12 rebounds. Against Chicago, your boy put up 28 points. Now, yeah, take that for what you will. If I'm remembering correctly, Chicago dusted them. The Lakers are getting dusted a lot these days. That's happening. Anyways, this return makes me happy just because I like to see health. I like to see what a team is actually working with and not just a part of what they're working with, because when you do that, you end up with Westbrook and DeAndre Jordan lineups. But if you add all the bodies, now all of a sudden you can get more creative. And I've been seeing tweets about, y'all saying Taylor and Horton Tucker is going to save the Lakers. Well, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying you could definitely use a guy with his skill set. You could absolutely use that over some of the lineups that they've been forced to play. And so against the Bucks, he had a lot of things going. He did have the shot going. He knocked down 3 of his 6 threes, but the drives were great as well. Showed great strength. And yeah, he didn't. I believe his injury was not to a lower extremity anyway, so it wasn't like he's coming back from a knee injury or anything. But showed some versatility while Braun was out that is going to be helpful to some of the lineups. Because when Braun is off the floor, which is ideal, not ideal. That's not what I'm trying to say. When Braun and Westbrook aren't playing together, you want to have other points of attack with either of them on the floor. So if it's Westbrook, you want to have a lineup with a guy like Tucker who's going to be able to do both, shoot and slash. Hell, same thing with LeBron. So Tucker's return was big. Obviously, LA is, like I said last podcast, going to have to get a lot of reps because he was terrible in Boston, but that was Braun's return, and all of a sudden he's taking a lot of shots. So good thing that he is back. And I'll just go ahead and kind of I don't know why I had that as 2 separate topics. I'll go ahead and kind of mix that in with the LeBron James return. So again, as of the time of the recording of this podcast, he's only played 1 game. By the time most of you listen to this, because I don't think it'll be on YouTube till night, he'll have played against the Pistons, which should have a great showing. I'm predicting a great showing unless he's not playing in that game, which he should not be resting him. Got to get this man reps. Got to get him reps and the team reps. But in the Celtics game, even though they lost, he still did a lot of LeBron stuff. Really, really strong and one finish that'll go on his highlight tape of guys trying their hardest to foul him on a fast break but failing. Had some of the turnaround fades going, 3-pointers. It was his first game back, so it's to be expected. But obviously, I think there was times where he did not look the same, which again, he's been recovering from injuries pretty much the whole year now, which is a first. So you'd expect that. There was one possession where he was trying to, dribble. Normally he can get something out of that. He can get a drive. And I can't remember who clamped him up, but somebody did. He just straight up lost the ball. Which is uncharacteristic, but also for a first game back, expected. In his first game back, by the way, because I did want to get you the specific log. I think it was 23 points off the top of my head. Yeah, I was correct though. 23 points, 62% from the field. You're happy with this return. 3 out of 7 threes. You're happy with this return. Showed some good flashes. Didn't come in and score 10 points. But yeah, he's clearly still recovering. So just get him on the court, manage his minutes. And just try to get this LA team somewhere decent. He says they should be uncomfortable right now. Obviously, they should. He said everyone on the team should be uncomfortable right now. Even before he came back, you had the game against the Bucks where Anthony Davis just got absolutely destroyed by Giannis. And if you're looking for the exact points, I think it was 18 points in, I can't remember how many minutes. But Giannis put 18 points on his head in a timely manner, a very timely manner. The receipts are there, so yeah, you could say he didn't score all 47 on AD. He did not, but he did score on AD though. He absolutely scored on AD, and I'd never seen him as a defender look. I don't know. Obviously, Davis has had a long career, so he's probably had a moment like that before. But I've never personally watched him look inferior to somebody on defense the way I saw him looking to Giannis. So it's a crazy look, man. It's a crazy look. I wonder what the conversations will be about Davis sooner than later, just because this stretch without LeBron, it just hasn't been good. They were missing other guys too, but it just, when you're a player of the caliber of Anthony Davis, it just feels like they should have been better. But I kind of did this whole thing last week too. So they should have a freebie against Detroit today, unless I'm not even gonna go there, bro. No, I don't want the stands on me. LeBron and Horton Tucker's return makes me happy. I think the only guy that they're really missing now would probably be Ariza, right? If you go to games, yeah, they are. You have not had Ariza yet, and you hadn't had Kendrick Nunn yet. So none of Kendrick. I had to. Yeah, which will probably help, because then if he comes back and he's able to shoot decent, then you'll never ever have to put Rondo and Westbrook on the floor together. Shouldn't do that anyways, but you might never have to do that. So those are the last two names. Now it's just about reps. Now it's just about winning games like the one today that you absolutely should win. And that's really all I'm gonna say about the Lakers right now, honestly. In the Celtics game, they got absolutely blitzed. I didn't expect them to lose by that much, not gonna lie. I think the last tally was Celtics put up 130 on them, which is just another testament to how average the Laker defense has been. But I guess this can kind of flow into a topic that I did not have on the happy list. And I don't know why I didn't have Giannis on the list. So I really didn't talk about the Bucks last week. I was talking about the Lakers and Bucks here, so that's how I'm flowing into it. The Bucks have not been healthy, so people have just, at least on my side of the Twitterverse, just been kind of ignoring them. Because it seems to be an understanding that they missed Middleton for most of this stretch, and they've also missed Brook Lopez. So that's two very, very important pieces to a competitive Bucks team with Giannis on it. Even though his jump shooting, first of all, his form definitely looks improved, and his 3-point stroke, he's stepping into those more confidently. It just feels like it's very well understood that team will not. It's not really a great team without the pieces as well. Giannis, as great as he is, they provide very much needed space and defense as well. So, anyways, yeah, 9-8, nothing to really be happy about. But Giannis is just doing what Giannis does, but it's really in the game tape. It's really in the game tape. That's why I try to make an effort, whenever he's played an important game, to go out and cut out the jump shots that he's taken or the threes that he's taken. Because if you just look at stats, you'll miss it. It looks almost identical to the past years. He's averaging 27 when it was 28 last year. He's averaging almost exactly the same number of assists, 12 rebounds over 11 last year, but his field goal percentage is understandably down. It's at 50% as opposed to his normal around 56, 55. In his MVP years, that's what he's getting, but without the team being healthy, he's, of course, it's not going to be exactly the same. 3-point percentage is also pretty much the same, 29%, where it was 30 last year. The only thing is he's taking one more 3 a game than he was. So shooting nearly the same percentage, but adding an extra 3-pointer a game, attempt a game, that's the part where you should kind of be watching. First of all, like I mentioned, the form, it just looks a lot cleaner. But he's stepping into these like, hey, I'm gonna do this. So you can choose to guard it, or you can choose not to guard it. I might hit none, but I might also give you a 3 of 7 night on threes. I might give you like a 2 of 5 night. Like I'm gonna hit you sometimes where it hurts. And so that just goes a long way in opening the floor up for him. Same as how Ja Morant is opening the floor, because he already has wicked athleticism. But now if you even have to think about him shooting a 3, well, you're kind of in trouble for the future. I say the future because Memphis probably should have been on the unhappy list. Memphis should have definitely been on the unhappy list. They've lost some games this week that are just like, how the hell? I looked at I mentioned the Memphis and Pelicans game last week, but then last night also, they got wiped out by the Wolves, and just what? Unless I'm completely stupid and I'm missing that Ja Morant didn't play, which I'm pretty sure he did because I turned that game on. What? But anyways, this is in the middle of the Giannis. In the middle of the Giannis spiel. Yeah, the 3-point shot looks more confident. The bag looks more confident. I'm talking about him, fading off of one leg, him going to a spin, him doing things off the dribble, which are all just options that he adds on to the majority of the time, where he'll just spin and then take one giant step into the paint and dunk on you. So that's where Milwaukee's just kind of on hold, because he has an improved game. Even if you can't see it in the numbers, I think the only indication in the numbers would be his 3-point attempts going slightly up while his percentage hasn't really gone down. That'd be about the only indication there. If you look at the things that he's doing, it's like, okay, cool. If this team gets healthy this year, they're major players once again. They're champions already, and there'll be major players in it. But I am worried because Brook Lopez is out with a back injury, as I understand. And gosh, he just disappeared one day as well. A lot of players just disappeared on some like the happening type shit. I don't even know if that's what happened in that movie. It's been a long time since I watched it. Gosh, yeah, he played one game. Yeah, he played one game and then just chucked the deuce. So and we're now 17 games in. It's tough because back injury. Start to wonder. 33 years old, big, really big center. He's really important to what they do. I know there was a lot of joke tweets coming from me last year about him and drop coverage, because obviously that was not ideal against Kevin Durant. Hell, it wasn't even ideal against Trae Young, but when he provides the spacing that he does for that team, you just kind of had to live with it and do the best that he could. Do the best that you could with it. And then even, if that was too much of a problem, Bobby Portis came in as well, and that helped. But they absolutely need him healthy. Portis is good. He's even averaging 15 points a game this year, by the way, in 8 starts. 8 out of the 12 games he's played, he started 8 of those. So Portis is absolutely an important part of this team, and he can give you some things. But Lopez stretching the floor, his size down low, so it's like rim protecting. He's super duper important. And if he comes back and he's like a fraction of himself because he's not in shape, or the back is a lingering issue, yeah, the Bucks, they won't repeat. Like that's I'll also put money on that. So I got money on Wizards fans' heads right now, and I got money on Bucks fans' heads. If y'all don't get a healthy Brook Lopez, y'all are not gonna make it out the East. That's not gonna happen. I think the room for error is small. Because again, when we're honest about the Bucks' run last year, healthy Nets, even a healthy Harden on that Nets team is winning that series. Hell, if they'd have ran into the Clippers, I think that might have been a problem at healthy Clippers. So if we're honest, it's like the room for error is just not that high for this squad. But you found some good things. 17 starts for Grayson Allen, also kind of out of necessity, but 42% from 3 on 8 attempts. That's what you need when you have Giannis on the floor, much like Westbrook when you need shooters, except it's totally different situations because one is Giannis and one is Westbrook. But yeah, but when they're healthy and you're running like right now the lineups are just all over the place, but when you're healthy, oh my God, like George Hill has started 11 games at 35 years of age. Yeah, when you're running a Drew Holiday and say Grayson Allen, Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Lopez lineup, now you're looking at something. And that's been a good find for them this year. 15 points a game on top of that. So Grayson Allen, really good find for them. And when they don't have to depend on him as so heavily as a starter because of everything that's happened with the lineup, now that's just a luxury. So Giannis and the Bucks, even though they're 9-8, I see the makings there. Giannis's game and improvement in his game makes me happy. And the Bucks, they should still, like right now, what, 9-8? God, damn near every team in this little tail end, like play-in section is 9-8. And so yeah, they still have a great shot to move up to like 5th and 4th. I hope I put a Miami Heat section on here, bro. Oh my God, I was about to go 2 straight weeks without talking about the Miami Heat. How did that happen? I definitely typed down, because I talked about Tyler Hero last year, and I might maybe mentioned him in the 6th Man of the Year race, and so I was definitely supposed to have a section here. But whatever, we're doing it now. Whatever. Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are 11-6. Coming into the season, I had them as number 3. We did that live on Twitch, so the receipts are there. I said they were going to be 3rd. They are 4th right now. And this is with Jimmy Butler missing some games. They took an L to the Wizards last night. Also, I'll be talking about them. But the Miami Heat are a fascinating bunch. They are a fascinating bunch. They made some additions this summer, and Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker, who I've now seen dunk. I've seen him do a couple of more things than just be in the corner. But either way, yeah, he's important, and he'll definitely be important when it's time to play Kevin Durant. And even though you're not going to stop Kevin Durant from averaging 100 points on 70%, the couple of possessions a PJ Tucker might give you by playing 90s defense are important. So important pick up in PJ. But Tyler Hero, yeah, y'all receipts look crazy right now. I don't know. I don't think I talked about Hero much last podcast, besides saying 6th man of the year race. I think there was just a mention there. But seriously, this is like, I'm glad I didn't join in. I bashed his meme. I did not bash him. I bashed that stupid ass snarl meme. Matter of fact, because I really hadn't been using, yeah, that snarl meme, just one of the worst memes of all time. And the uses of it were terrible. But anyways, that's not what we're on. Positive stuff, right? Happy. He started 4 games this year out of necessity, I believe, when Jimmy Butler's out. 21 points a game, up from 15. 39% from 3, which is basically 40. He's 39.5, so almost 40% from 3 on 7 attempts. So more 3-point attempts than he did last year, and he's almost shooting 40%. And 45% from the field. Not taking a victory lap 16 games in, but again, I told you on the podcast, eventually I'm going to have kind of maybe like a tweet section, but I just remember this tweet at the beginning of the season, the preseason, when I was talking about the Heat and some of the lineups they could run, maybe spacing the floor while Lowry and Bam are in PNR. And a guy just trying to aggressively argue me down about how the Heat didn't have shooters. I was saying they just added PJ Tucker, you got Duncan Robinson there, you got Tyler Hero. Now, I understand Tyler Hero was, especially last season, not really shooting great, but I also took last season with a grain of salt because the Heat, once again, were one of the hardest hit teams by COVID. I believe Hero was a part of that, if my memory is not failing me. It just wasn't a good season for them in general, and it wasn't a great season for him. But I did not forget the season before where he was averaging 39% from 3. And so I've seen his potential before. I need to come back healthy. Now he's shooting good. And this guy was just like trying to argue 36%. Because even last year with the things that went wrong for the entire team and Tyler Hero, he was shooting 36% from 3, which is just pretty average. The amount of attempts he was taking, that's pretty average. Our whole point was, you don't just willingly want to leave Tyler Hero open. That's not his scouting report since he's joined the league. And so anyways, whatever, like I said, 16 games in, but I was just baffled that dude really took the time to pull out graphs and shit and tell me how average he was. And I'm like, look, at a scouting report, you don't. If Lowry and Bam are running a PNR in the floor spaced with Hero, Tucker, and Duncan Robinson, that was just the lineup that I just had in my head at that time. It's like, you don't just willingly want to leave any of them open. He's like, oh, Tyler, whatever. Anyways, stupid ass Twitter. Yeah, he is having a season for himself. He is doing it mostly from the bench. The Heat have got Kyle Lowry going. You've got Jimmy Butler going when he's there. He's only missed a couple of games with that sprained ankle. Jimmy Butler's up to 25 points a game this year, by the way, with 53% from the field, having some just magnificent performances. And so the Heat are exactly what I expected at this specific moment. Speaking of which, let me just check. Yep, that checks out. 4th in opponents' points per game, 6th in defensive rating, 4th in offensive rating. And I wonder, like, I'm high on them. I've heard some reservations about them. I'm high on them because this is the 2020 Eastern Conference champions. And if you take out last year with them just being ravaged, they've added pieces to essentially that same team. And you've got Bam Adebayo taking steps as well. And so in the Eastern Conference, when you look at a Nets team that's missing Kyrie, or a Bucks team that might not be healthy, or a Bucks team that struggled with them just a year ago, hell, that was last year in the bubble. I think we completely forget that. That was literally 1 year ago. 1 year and some change. I think the Bucks absolutely conquered them after game 1 in the playoffs last year, but I think this is a better team. And I also think once you get to the playoffs, I think that'd be a far better matchup this year. if we line it up and the Bucks can play the Heat, I think it'll be much better than the sweep that we saw. I think it'd be the Heat have a legitimate chance to go to the finals, is what I'm trying to tell you. I do wonder. I guess I do wonder a bit about when you get to the playoffs. I really don't wonder about that, to be honest with you. Like, I've seen Jimmy Butler in the finals before, and I've seen him have one of the better finals performances in that one game that the meme came from. I really don't wonder about Jimmy Butler's ability when he's healthy on a healthy Heat team to be that guy. He was terrible last year, but again, it's 1 year, just like with Tyler Hero, it's 1 year. Yeah, I just don't have the reservations some people have about this team. I thought I was going to come on here and maybe tell you to pump your brakes about Miami, but I'm really not. I guess it'll just be, let's see Tyler Hero keep this up. I guess it'll be staying healthy, obviously, which they don't have a major problem with if Butler's not spraining an ankle. And I guess it will just be Kyrie also not returning. And you have that, the Miami Heat, you should be happy if you're a fan of the squad. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm also just kind of like reading. I'm just reading the Basketball Reference page while I'm looking at this. Yeah, I just want to see Tyler Hero maintain this level because that's a big part. As they continue to rely on him as heavily as they are, he's the second leading scorer on the team. If he can keep that and then win possibly Sixth Man of the Year and go into the playoffs with something around a 20 point per game average, and Jimmy Butler still got 25 a game, which, by the way, yeah, I knew that was an uptick. He averaged 21 last year. That's up from the 19 that you saw before that. 25 is a career high for. I watched a podcast where they called him J Butt. I don't know if I like that. I think we're just gonna go with Jimmy G. J Butt is not my cup of tea. Yeah, J Butt. That's kind of wild.
Let's not get crazy.
That's insane. Miami Heat make me happy. Moving on. Yeah, I guess that would flow right into the Bulls. That would naturally flow right into the Bulls, but I kind of want to talk about the Sixers more. I'm a little bit more excited to talk about Philly. I might not even get to everything that makes me happy. It looks like I'm almost at an hour if I haven't passed it already. I went for 2 hours last week. Hell, why not? If we're here for the long haul, why not just go straight into 2 hours, bro? I'm cool with this every week. Tyrese Maxey and the Sixers. I am very happy with what's happening in Philly. Let me tell you why. They're 9-8 in the 10th seed, but this is why you pay attention to the whole season. Obviously, Embiid went out. I talked about their hot start before Embiid went out. And here's the thing with them. The Ben Simmons situation, obviously, which is so funny because when I'm on the NBA's Twitch channel every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, I'm seldom allowed to talk about Ben just because they don't want that. So I can't even really, like, when I say Ben Simmons, I just have to basically say, yeah, with the Simmons thing in Philly, and I just have to kind of move on. I probably mentioned it a little bit last week. So I talked about the intricacies with how that's gotten into like mental health and whatever. I didn't really go that deep, so intricate is not the right word. But I just hit my mic. I apologize. But Tyrese Maxey has made this situation somewhat clearer for a situation that has no clear end. When you say, okay, well, we just lost our point guard who was one of the best defenders in the NBA, and we've got no replacement for him, and we're not trading him anytime soon. You stand a 21-year-old point guard that comes in and says, all right, cool, well, I'll give you 18 points a game with 5 assists on 52% from the field and 42% from 3 and 35 minutes a game when I was only playing, what, 15 last year? He is seizing the opportunity, like really, really seizing it. He is the point guard in this situation that Philly needs. Cause once again, my one-time notice a week, or my one-time reminder a week that that Embiid and Simmons were never going to win a championship. If you have Embiid as your best player, you need a point guard that fits him. Tyrese Maxey fits him. Not saying this Philly team would win a championship, because I still think they need a I still think they need like a second like legitimate superstar with Embiid, or like a legitimate top something player. But for this situation where you lost everything that you did in Simmons, yeah, sure, you lost some defense, but it's the complete opposite on the offensive side. You don't have to worry about the offense being inverted. Even though Embiid hasn't, for the games that Embiid did play this year, it wasn't anything insane. And now that with COVID, I'm wondering if he's going to come back the same, but I don't have a crystal ball, sadly. But with this, now it's okay. It's a lot less pressure with that Ben Simmons situation because we have a starting point guard now. It's not like we have to swap Ben Simmons out for a star point guard that we were never going to get. I'm talking in the character of the Sixers. We is not Philly. I'm not associated. But okay, Maxey stepped into this beautifully, and he fits this squad because we've also got Seth Curry spacing the floor, George Niang, who's also spacing the floor. He just came out of nowhere. I think a lot of people didn't even know who George Niang was. Now he's there and he's performing. And then Harris and Embiid, like that lineup fits so much better than anything that they've had. Now it becomes okay, let's just, if I'm Philly, or let's just relieve ourselves of the Simmons headache. He should never play for us again, because that's where that's where I really wanted to go. If you're a Philly fan, I don't know how much you want Simmons to ever play for you again. When the season started, maybe it was, yeah, we want him to come back so he can raise his value and so we can go ahead and get rid of him. But do you now want him to come back and start over Tyrese Maxey when you know how it ends with Simmons? You know that him and Embiid are never going to win a championship. Do you want to stifle this blossoming? I don't want to call Tyrese Maxey a flower, but oh man, I don't even. You don't want to stop this blossoming point guard in Maxey, and with the headache that'll be Simmons and the toxicity that's going to come with that situation. You kind of just need to get some pieces now. So you're not going to get a star for Simmons, especially if he never plays again for Philly. You're not going to get a star from him. So I guess Morey will be looking and saying, okay, Simmons has 4 years on his contract. As at a certain point, there would be a star disgruntled enough out there that he could finesse it. Maybe that's the situation he's hoping for. But also, that is the tiny bit of leverage that Simmons has, which is not, he don't have leverage at all, but as a result of his situation and then this Sixers team actually looking good together, maybe that puts pressure on you to say, okay, you know what, we don't need the next big thing for Simmons. We just need some pieces and then we can go, because you've got the best big man in the conference. And you, before everything happened, they were all to a good start. You've got a well-fitting team now, so just get a couple pieces with that and go and see what happens from there. Tyrese Maxey gives you that option. When coming into the season, you didn't necessarily have that. I know Maxey's shown flashes before, but I will not even tell you that I knew he was going to come in and just, be giving you multiple 30-point nights and doing this well with this many minutes. So he makes the situation much better for the Sixers. Obviously, like, COVID just is what it is. It sucks, and I hope Embiid isn't too affected by it, because I was already worried about his shape at some points in his career. But like I said, we don't know how to factor that in. Yeah, there's a bunch of 9 and 8 teams, 8 and 9 teams in the East. So if you get Embiid hopefully back in like the next week or something, you can make something out of this. My goodness, bro. My eating habits are terrible, and that's why my stomach is just trying to get me to burp so hard during this podcast with all this talking. Yeah. Philly, Maxey has maximized the potential of that situation. Now I can go to the Bulls. Chicago, top 4 in the East right now, actually top 3 team. Everyone up here damn near has the same record. It ranges from 12-5 to 11-6, so there's a lot happening. But the Chicago Bulls have been, I would say, I don't want to call them a pleasant surprise, because I knew they were going to be fun. Everyone knew they were going to be fun to watch. That when the roster finished, we said, okay, this is our league pass team. So that was all of Twitter, and so that part definitely came to pass. But how good they are is a bit different. I think that even though they weren't terrible, even last year they weren't like terrible defensively. Looking at this group, I don't think anybody thought it was going to be a strong suit. And to this point, it's been good. They're top 10 in both right now. They're 8th in opponents a game, 9th in defensive rating. For this squad and their expectations, and even when you actually watch them, it's been good. You lost Patrick Williams, which I think would have given them some more lineup versatility, especially when you think about what might happen down the road with Vooch in pick and roll defense. But anyways, that's a long time from now. The additions have just been all the way turned up. Alex Caruso on defense, Lonzo Ball on defense, who I think they said he's like the only player in the NBA right now with 30 steals and 10 blocks. That might be the stat. It might not be the stat, but it's something like that. And he's also just quarterbacking this whole thing. But the duo of LaVine and DeRozan, why is this as good as it is? First of all, just to talk about LaVine, I find it funny because there's a subsection of Twitter that just doesn't like to think at all. Well, really, that's a lot of Twitter. But specifically when it comes to young players on bad teams, there's a subsection that likes to down these players. It happened to Devin Booker before the Suns got good. It was happening to LaVine. And I never understood it. I never understood why you look at a player that's like 25 or something like that and his team sucks and you're like, oh, he just puts up points on a bad team. Yeah, that team fucking sucks, of course. But if you put decent players around them, it looks... We're 2 for 2 now. Booker went to the finals. LaVine is averaging 26 points a game, 50% from the field, 40% from 3. And again, and it all checks out with the eye test as well. Like, it's great. And his duo partner is averaging the highest points, or one of the highest marks of his career. DeRozan with 26 a game, killing it from mid-range. Even's got his 3-point, he's doing what he needs to with threes. He's only taking around 2 a game. We went over that last week. So these two are combining for damn near, if you were to round, 54 points a game. But then you've got, well, Vooch is out lately, but he was averaging 14 when he was there, even though he's not having a great season at all because he needs to stretch the floor. He was only shooting 26%. And when you talk, he has to hit his shots because, again, I see disaster in the future with his defense. But either way, you get Ball with 13. So that duo is just, they're as entertaining as the numbers say. That's one. But the defense, and specifically Alex Caruso, who is averaging 2.5 steals a game, which I'm surprised that's not leading in the league. Just out of my curiosity, what is the leader for that? If you looked at, bro, basketball, I know they probably need these ads to survive, but the amount of times that the basketball reference page shifts when you're trying to click on something is going to make me punch my screen. Okay, yeah, God, I knew it. Caruso is second in the league in steals. He's trailing Chris Paul by 1/10 of a point right now. It's only started in 4 games, but his defense is hounding. It's almost to the point, where I'm starting to see people say, hey, defensive player of the year conversations, easily all NBA defensive level, like easily. But I'm starting to see people say defensive player of the year convos, which I don't, as the season pans out, I don't think that'll happen. I've even seen specifically from TSO, I think TSO Sage had a tweet that said if Sixth Man of the Year was about more than just points a game, we'd be looking at Caruso right now. That's where I draw a line now. I would still go Tyler Hero. People would call it narratives really shouldn't play a part in it, but people calling that man trash. But he's pretty much been, I don't know if you'd say the second best player on Miami, but offensively maybe he's like the second most important player on that team off the bench. And for what that Heat team has needed this season too, I think that's just such a role he's filling. That's why my vote would still go there. So yeah, it is heavily about points, but also still, I think that's a different conversation. We can have that conversation later. That's a funny conversation. I just thought that tweet was hilarious. Here, goddamn, Caruso had specifically the one that you probably saw was the Twitter clip of the Nuggets where Will Barton was just trying him. And you could tell he took the challenge. He got sucked into a one-on-one game, which is horrible because that's sometimes just what'll happen with the Nuggets without Jokic. Is they just have to find something random right now with no Murray and no Michael Porter Jr. But Barton tried it And Caruso got all the way over a screen, and Barton was like, oh, bet. All right, you're going to help me out here? Bet. And then he got plucked. And Caruso tracked his every move. I think he did it to him. I don't know if it was a different Nuggets player. I think he also did it to him on the other side of the floor and caused a shot clock violation. It was like some of the most hounding defense we've seen this season. And so he's been just a mega important pickup for the Chicago team, giving them a huge boost defensively, making it possible for them to run some lineups with him in it that where you can say, okay, they aren't the defensive pushovers you thought they were going to be when the season started. He has been huge, and the Lakers look crazy for that. But so happy with the Bulls right now. I just sound the warning on when you get into the playoffs and they get into a series with the Nets, which I'm assuming Harden will be healthy by then, and I just see Vooch getting hunted. First of all, his first things first, again, like he has to have his shooting at a level where he's not afraid to look at the goal by that point. But on defense, when you get there, and Patrick Williams is not an option this year, that's the tough part. He's going to be out the entire season, so you can't even just say, okay, he's developed nicely throughout the year, we're going to run a smaller lineup with him at 6'7", Pat Williams at 5. I'm just saying, if you had to come up with something to keep Vooch from getting just picked on and pick and roll in half court, I think that might end up being an undoing for them if you get to that point, but that's in the future. Right now, they're a deep team. They are a good defensive team. They have the most exciting duo in the league. They've got great support pieces. Chicago basketball is, for the moment, it's back. And Kobe White just came back, by the way, so we'll see if he actually ends up getting or making impact minutes. It's only played 3 games, so there's really not a whole lot to go off of right now. But yeah, Caruso defense, Chicago Bulls duo, crazy. I still have so many things that make me happy on this list, but some of them are gonna start getting a little bit shorter. I'll go ahead and get to the Wizards because I do want to talk about them before I start getting tired and just cutting corners. The Washington Wizards are one of those teams that absolutely nobody cares about because they've been high to start the season, but I think it feels like a matter of time until they probably fall out of the top 4, and B, people look at the roster and they say even if they did finish 2 or 1, nobody would believe in that. It would be of the ilk of the 2015 Hawks type roster or the 2017 Celtics. It's that type of team where it's like, yeah, whatever, man. When the playoffs come, we know that's not the we believe team. However, they are in the happy list because I do want to say they're better than you probably give them credit for. Impressive win against the Heat last night. Yeah, you still got Bradley Beal, who may not be averaging 30 anymore, but that's good because he doesn't necessarily have to. His scoring is way down. It's averaging 23 a game. But they have good players on this team, which when you look around Washington, you don't always say that. You got good players. First of all, Harrell is also got his hat in the six man of the year race. Every time I see the box score, it looks exactly the same for him. It's like 15 points and some good number of rebounds. Every time I watch any game footage or I even watch a Wizards game, it's the same thing. He's always in the dunker spot, great on the roll, and he's doing Montrezl Harrell things like that he did before he was on the Lakers. That's another one where I'd still just kind of scratch my head on how that got as bad as it did for them. Started 3 games this year, but yeah, Harrell is a magnificent piece for them. Second leading scorer on the team. Spencer Dinwiddie off the ACL, which again, ACL injuries are just starting to seem like a thing of the past, averaging 16 points a game. His role is to just come out there and just get you some points. Spencer Dinwiddie is doing that. He's also got a bit of playmaking as well, up to 6 assists a game. So Dinwiddie was a good piece for the Nets. He is a good piece for the Wizards. Kyle Kuzma is having a decent season. He's not shooting it all that well. But he is almost giving you a double-double. So he started the season great on the boards. It's averaging 9 of those right now. 14 points. Also, that's literally his role. And to sometimes throw LeBron-esque no-look passes, trying to emulate LeBron on those a little bit. I think Spencer Dinwiddie cooked him for that. But yeah, if you haven't been watching any Kyle Kuzma, he does have those. You know how LeBron will throw a really hard, exaggerated pass looking the other way. Kuzma is doing that a good bit. But yeah, he's as fun as it was for Twitter to laugh at him. He's doing decent there. He's just doing what you kind of need Kyle Kuzma to do. I said I came into this season, I had a bit higher expectations. Not gonna lie, looking at this roster and knowing what the Wizards were last year, I was like, okay, he's gonna come in and get all the shots he wants. So I could see him at about 20 points a game. But because Harrell is getting a lot of the pie and Spencer Dinwiddie as well, that's obviously not gonna happen. You've got Caldwell Pope, just 3-pointers. That's basically it. A little bit average from there, 36%. That's all. Again, that's all you need from a Caldwell Pope. Then you got Daniel Gafford, who was all the rage last year. If you were paying any attention to Washington, like, they've got decent players here. They've got decent enough players here around Beal for them to be a decent team, but not a damn second seed though. Not a second seed. Again, I got $20 for y'all, Wizards fans. I got $20 for y'all that it will fall, but it's a watchable product. It's fascinating enough that I see them on the schedule playing Miami, and I'm like, oh, I actually need to sit in on that. I actually need to sit in on a Wizards game. But I still think by the end of the season it'll even out to around 6. If they finish 5th, they job accomplished. If Washington finished 5th this year, mission accomplished. Because it's not even just about their roster. The East is just very tough. But yeah, well-rounded squad. Beal does not have to put up 30. Also, you don't hear Beal's name at all this year anymore. His field goal percentage is also at 42%. Last year when he was giving you 31 on 48, yeah, it's definitely a different type of season, but they're winning. So that's the important part. And I'm glad to see that too. So we don't have to spend all year banging our heads against the wall saying, when is Bradley Beal getting traded? It's good to see something decent happening there right now. And we'll see where it goes. So Wizards, y'all got your mentions. I advocate the watching of Wizards games. I'll continue to sit in, but I don't think my opinion will be unchanged. I don't think my opinion will be changed anytime soon. I could talk about a couple of more because we're almost done here. Actually, I just wanted to give the Thunder a mention just for their core, because they are actually at this specific moment kind of competing for a play-in spot. It looks like they're a full game out of the play-in behind the Minnesota Timberwolves, but that's good because they started the season looking like they were about to be maybe like Pelicans level. But they've got 6 wins. They're 6-10. 2 of those came up off the Lakers. Fascinating stuff. I don't think I probably mentioned them as a note last week, but yeah, Shai Gilgeous is like that. So if I didn't talk about them enough, take it with like a you have to watch it type of grain of salt. Because if you just went and looked and saw him shooting 40%, you'd be like, what? But also, again, this is the Thunder and he has a lot of responsibility on here. And it's a team that is building and trying to figure out their pieces for the future and all that. So it's, yeah. If you actually watch Shai, like, the bag is getting deeper. There's a specific piece of footage you can go watch where they played the Clippers earlier this season. And he just, I think it was the 3rd quarter, and he just went on a run, man. Side steps, step backs, good bit of slashing this year. He's there. He's definitely their point guard of the future, and they're very happy to have received him from the Clippers. That's a great piece. They got him, I guess, when you were still looking and saying you just see the potential, and he stepped right into the role. And I think that if you look at the field goal percentage, it is way down this year. But the bag is definitely getting deeper. The bag is getting deeper, and I just wanted to bring them up because you've also got Lou Dort and Josh Giddey. So I'm starting to see the makings of something, right? It's like starting to see a star forming out in space. Just Giddey, good rookie, solid playmaker this year. Hell, even rebounder. It's giving you 7 a game right now. Josh Giddey, 6'8". Yeah. Was that 200? They said 210 pounds? Yeah, no, Giddey's playmaking is my favorite part, though. His passing, clearly a piece for the future. And then Lou Dort, who's actually taking a step. So defensively, you know what you're getting from him, but he's also the 2nd leading scorer on this team. It's got his 3-point percentage to 30% at the moment. So obviously that's the part that you want to see continue to trend in the right direction, because he's taking more every year. He was only taking 2 back when the OKC team was in the bubble, and he was practically a self cover from 3. So you didn't have to guard him at all. Then he came in next year shooting 34% on 6 attempts. Now he's taking 7 attempts, shooting 30%. But again, for the type of defender he is, it's like his 3-point percentage don't have to be super high. And he's also just offensively looking a little bit better as you go on, which is good for this team because that's your third. It's your third guy. So if you're a young Thunder team, I'm also wondering, like, how good do you actually want to do this season, since these guys are so young and you're trying to figure out so many of these you're trying to figure out so much for the future. Like, how good do you actually want to do with this team? I mean, if you look at Sacramento losing every year, it's not a good culture, because then you just get stuck with a squad that isn't going anywhere. So I guess you could be happy with it. But yeah, I did just want to give those 3 a mention. I don't know why it took me so long to get that out. Wanted to give those 3 a mention. Of course, you got other pieces like here. You've got Darius Bazley down there. Poku basically became a meme last year, probably just because of his picture, but still trying to get it figured out. Through 16 games this season. Yeah, there's just a little mention for the Thunder. It was mostly because of Shai Gilgeous and Dort. Something for the future. I think the last thing I mentioned, because I did talk about the Warriors last week, talked about Golden State. I just wanted to get my little bit of Andrew Wiggins propaganda in, because I think he had like a 27-point game against the Pistons. They won without anybody. That was the big thing there. They didn't play Steph Curry, no Draymond Green. Jordan Poole was there, and I think he had a season high. So there you go. If you're having reservations about him being a legitimate number 2, which he, again, won't even have to be, I don't think, because Klay Thompson is coming back. But if you're having reservations about that, it was the Pistons, but still. I thought the important part, that's what I mentioned in my video, is that the Warriors just played Warriors basketball, regardless of who's on the floor, which is reminiscent of these early Warriors teams. But yes, Wiggins propaganda looked great. Looked great in the mid-range, looking great as a driver, as a defender. And that was with him as like a first or second option a couple of days ago. When on this regular Warriors team, what is it going to be, like 3rd or 4th? So Wiggins propaganda is shining, but I don't need another Warriors segment here. Just did a Warriors video, did a whole segment on them last week. That leads to my last NBA mention, which is the Phoenix Suns. And they deserve a mention because it feels like nobody cares. Even though they are on an 11-game win streak, they're 12-3. So they started off the season, I think, like what, 1-3 or something, or were they like 500 at the very early first games? DeAndre Ayton missed some time. Devin Booker was not hitting his shots to start, and here we are. Chris Paul is playing great basketball. They're 12-3. JaVale McGee is also playing good basketball for them, which was an underrated pickup. But when you have an athletic big on the same team as Chris Paul, it's a good addition. But I think for me, the biggest thing is to see CP3 still doing what CP3 does, because he's 36. And that's what you wonder, right? Or at least what I wonder. When you come into a year, you always wonder when is going to be that year where it just kind of, it falls off for a player of his age or a player of his caliber. Kind of wonder, man, is this a year where it's just going to kind of hit a wall? And it was so deflating too for Phoenix, which is why I think nobody's really minding what's happening there. It's because just like the Bucks, I think even to a higher degree, people don't really believe in that run. You played that injured LA team, then you played the injured Clippers team. Hell, you played the injured Nuggets team, which I think they would have beat the Nuggets regardless. But out of the Lakers and Clippers, people are like, yeah, no. The both of those squads are healthy. They were out. But either way, yeah. So that's why people wouldn't really believing in that run. Then they went and took a 2-0 lead to the Bucks and lost. And Chris Paul did not play well. You come into this year, and now it's just kind of like, okay, we've seen you make a run. You got to the finals in a title that you could have won and you didn't. So nothing in the regular season will impress anybody. But I will just be mindful that Paul is leading the league in both assists and steals, and he still more or less looks like Paul. The times that I cut the Suns on, you'll just see him just distributing and cutting some squad up with his passing. And yeah, the Chris Paul experience is still here. They've won a lot, and they play the Warriors on Christmas Day, which is so goddamn cool. Because as much as I like X's and O's of basketball and all this little intricate stuff, I also like storylines. And one of the, I guess, underrated storylines of this part, for me anyways, in my head, is kind of Chris Paul and Steph. Because it really feel like Steph just came and took Paul's whole shit in the Western Conference out of nowhere. Because you remember those early days when the Clippers were playing the Warriors, and the Clippers won that. Did they beat them twice? I think, did they beat them 2 years in a row? Either way, that was like a whole thing. It was like a whole rivalry until it wasn't. Just 1 year we came in and the Warriors were just better, and Steph was just better, and there wasn't any question, and he ascended so high that he's above Chris Paul on the all-time list. And so now we come in and Chris Paul is a bit of an elder statesman. The Warriors disappeared for a couple of years, and Paul went to a team that shocked people and then almost won a championship. And now Golden State is back. So once again, if it lines up and this stays where it is, all of a sudden you've got Chris Paul and Steph much later in their careers, which is just really cool to me. I like to watch these things build out because I've been watching them since I was a kid. So I hope that it does turn out that way. If the Lakers never figure it out, I'm much more interested in the Warriors Suns. Just even from a basketball perspective, I'm more interested in Warriors Suns than I am Warriors Jazz. I'm just not at all fascinated by the Jazz and anything that they do. Third in the West right now, by the way. Won't be getting a podcast segment. I'm neutral on them. Yeah, Warriors Suns Christmas Day. Somebody knew. Somebody at the schedule making knew. Hey, Steph is back, and the Warriors are going to be back. And the Suns are the conference champions right now. Chris Paul is actually a conference champion. And so let's see if Steph can ruin another section of Chris Paul's career. Oh gosh. That would be awesome if Chris Paul somehow played a huge part in getting the Suns past the Warriors, and then they won a championship. He could finally rest. He could finally have his little Thanos segment. So I'm happy for the Suns, but also let's get back to the playoffs and let's see them. Cause yeah, even though I respect everybody's run, before Anthony Davis went out last year, I thought the Lakers were going to win that. And I thought it was unfortunate that the Suns were being made to play the Lakers in the first round. So yeah, just some little G League notes here at the end. I only have 2 names that I wrote down here because I know most of y'all ain't watching the G. But you remember Alfonso Mckinney? You remember the name Alfonso Mckinney? Played some time for the Lakers. Played some time for the Warriors when they were in the conference finals and KD went out. Well, he's killing it in the G right now. He's averaging 24 points. His shooting is not hot, which is part of one of the interviews that my co-host got for him at the end, because he was out there after a game shooting just because it's not dropping, but he's slashing well, and he's also getting to the not getting to the free throw line that much. He's slashing well mostly is what you see from him. And he's having high scoring nights, going out and getting his. It's just fascinating because him and a couple of former NBA players are down there right now. Hell, even Serge Ibaka is down there right now, and Serge Ibaka is rehabbing. So that's unfortunate for guys who are trying to make the NBA and they're playing former NBA champion Serge, who's just kind of like getting some shots up so he can be healthy and go back to the Clippers. So if you didn't know that, yes, Serge is in the G at the moment. But I just wanted to pop the name Alfonso Mckinney just because I watch every G League highlight basically for the games that I can't catch, and so pretty much in a lot of my recaps McKinney pops up, and it's wild. It's like, man, this was a guy that people were basically, I don't want to say shitting on, but they were like, oh, Steph had to play with Alfonso McKinney. He's in the G, putting up a 25 point per game average, even though the field goal percentage is crazy. But he's putting in the work, though. He's putting in the work. Sharif Cooper is a name that I probably have a bit more to say about, though. Alfonso McKinney was just kind of a buzz name. Sharif Cooper, did want to give that a mention because every minute that I've seen of him since he got drafted, whether it was summer league or preseason or the G, I've seen something that impresses me. So if you didn't know, he's playing for the I think it's College Park Skyhawks, which are the Hawks affiliate. And in any game he plays, he stands out. He should probably not be in the G League right now. If I could probably pull his stats for you, but it's also, if you're interested in this kind of thing, I would recommend actually watching his footage, because you see him make great passes, whether it's a skip pass, whether it's a lob pass. He very clearly understands the assignment as a point guard. Looks like in the G right now he's averaging 18 and 8. But I hated from the time that I even when I saw him in the preseason throw that lob to John Collins, that was where it's like, okay, I've seen this kid a couple of times now. I saw him in Summer League, I see him here. It's just like he sticks out every time. He has something that sticks out every time he plays. Unfortunate that he's drafted by the Hawks, because he's 6'1", 176 pounds. He is a slight small build. He's also playing behind Trae Young, another slight small build. I don't think Sharif Cooper and Trae Young were ever going to share the floor in any legitimate capacity. He's gonna be a backup. Even if they call him up, he would be Trae Young's backup. And right now, I think he's playing behind. It'd be Trae Young and Lou Williams, right? If you look at the rotation, and Lou Williams is getting a bit old, so it's not like that's gonna last forever. But at this moment, yeah, so of course you've got Trae. Oh, by the way, DeAndre Hunter got hurt, which is tragic for a Hawks team that's trying to find its footing. Yeah, and then Lou Will. So Lou Will doesn't start. It's only giving you 5 points a game this year, 37%. Low key, and at 35 years old, low key, I'm starting to look and say, yeah, I mean, I don't want to give Sharif Cooper too much credit, obviously, because a lot of what he's done hasn't been at the NBA level. I'm just saying I've been impressed in everything that I've seen, and he could probably do more with more minutes. And Lou Will ain't great right now. Either way, I think just in the things that I've seen from Reef, I think that he could probably be going to end up having like starting potential, and it's never going to happen on the Hawks, because he's never going to be able to start at 6'1", and that's the only way he'd be able to start on this Hawks team. And so he's just kind of unfortunate to be sitting behind Trae Young. But yeah, his game, it sticks out, the playmaking, the scoring. So if there's anything that would make you interested in watching the G League, College Park Skyhawks games or highlights, that's pretty much what I have to say about Reef. I'm just mad that he got drafted behind Trae Young. That's all. It's been that way since Summer League, honestly. Well then, it looks like I have covered just about everything on my list, and this is probably a nearly 2-hour podcast. Did what makes me happy and unhappy. I hope to add like a tweet segment to this podcast, and a surprising segment, like things that surprise me, and then tweets, which is basically just dumb shit or interesting things that I find on the interwebs. But for now, I think that's it. I think that is it. This is a interesting, fascinating season. The standings are all jumbled. The Mavericks might surprise you at 9-6. Porzingis is having some good flashes, I would say, which is really big for the Mavericks. They lost Doncic for the last like 2 games, I think. So they were previously 9-3, I think. Why does that feel wrong? I could have sworn I thought they won 10 games. Either way, I'm not sure if Doncic is coming back today. I hope he does. But yeah, Porzingis doing anything positive for that team would be gigantic. But yeah, there's just a lot of 500 records in both the East and West. After you get like past 4, it's very close to 500 and below for all these squads. Grizzlies took some lumps this week. The Hornets started out good, and they're almost at 500 again. Yeah. Interesting stuff in the standings. We'll see. We'll let that unjumble itself. Either way, appreciate you for coming back to this podcast. I know y'all thought I wasn't going to post it. You were like, oh yeah, he posted a pod last week. You just about to disappear. Nah, man, I got time these days, bro. I got time. Much less stressed for multiple reasons. So it's cool to come here and just kick it on the pod for a couple hours about all these things that I watch, because I don't necessarily like making 6 videos in a week. And so I come here and just chat for 2 hours. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoy the pod. Also to if you just listen to it on other platforms, leave like a star or something. Well, more than 1 star. That'd be nice. And rate it. I used 2 or 3 sound effects today, so I'm proud of myself for not forgetting that. But the thing that I did forget to do is every time I switched podcast topics, I was supposed to press a button that would make the screen flash. That way I could find it in Premiere Pro and then give you guys time markers. So you're probably not getting good time markers in the comment section or description. Maybe some good Samaritan will go down there and put those down there for you. But hey, if you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple, then it doesn't even matter. Well, I appreciate you regardless. And I will see you next week. There's a chance at some point with one of these podcasts that it will end up being on a Monday. Because again, Sunday games start so early that I kind of don't like having to come on here and get everything out before the games start. And then LeBron ends up dropping 50 and it's not on the pod. So there's a chance like maybe next week it'll be Monday. But yeah, so if that's why it's not next Sunday, then you get it. All right. I will see y'all on the next one.